成長官ユナイテッドエンパイア。今日は試合があった。そして彼がエンパイアの応援してくれるってよ。みんなブロッキンテーブルポッドキャストよろしく。
For the sky, boy.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Broken Tables podcast. This is episode number 111 here for our AEW Rampage review. I'm your host, Jeffrey Vegas, here as always with our co-host, King Rome. How you doing today, sir?
I am fucking stoked.
Oh, I bet you are. That Dawkins jersey's looking fly as hell there. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great night.
Yep, tonight at 8:15, right?
Yes, sir.
So working over at Curly's today, the restaurant here right outside of Philly, the hottest cheesesteak spot outside of Philadelphia. We were sold out. Like, people called up to place their orders. We were sold out by, I think it was 1:30ish. I texted you, maybe 2, but we had to stop taking orders. We didn't have enough rolls for anybody else to make any orders. We basically just had to be like, if you want some mac and cheese or a cheeseburger, but it was wild, man. Today was insane. It still is. I left them behind to come do the podcast,
Yeah, no, I mean, I was trying to figure out myself if I wanted to get Curly's tonight, and it didn't line up with the schedule, and I didn't get to call it in ahead of time, so I was like, it is what it is, I guess.
Right. So, funny story. A lady showed up to pick up an order, and she says, we placed our order online. And we were like, oh, really? Because we don't do that, right? So we did some investigation for her, because her husband apparently did it online, he said. We looked up the name Curly's, and the closest place that we could find that did online ordering was in Wildwood, New Jersey. And we were just like, I'm very sorry, but oh man, it was funny.
Sucks.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into our AEW Rampage review here, and I'm not sure you're going to agree with me here tonight, but this is the first time I had felt this way, in a long time about Rampage. I thought this was a very lackluster Rampage. The card that they gave us, besides Jade Cargill, felt like some of the old Rampages that, we used to complain about. I don't really know if it was just the way that I was feeling overall about the week, you know what I mean, with Jay's passing and stuff like that. I thought we were going to hear some good news, and that second report that we got actually made me feel even worse for the two daughters, you know what I mean? That was a rough week for the wrestling world. Maybe some of that is what got me feeling a little down here for this Rampage, but we started off with Jungle Boy versus Ethan Page. Jericho on commentary was actually great here. I think Jericho did help tremendously here tonight. When Jungle Boy was coming down to the ring, he was saying how he hates when the crowd sings along to theme songs. And man, I've personally sang Jericho's theme song while he's walking to the ring at least, what is it now, 8 times?
Well, that's the beauty of it, the irony of him saying he doesn't like it when, people sing theme songs. It's like, well, that's kind of your thing. That's kind of your gimmick.
It's so good. It's great.
Yeah.
Ethan Page attacks before the bell while Jungle Boy's, doing his thing on the top ropes. There was a spot here where he used Isaiah as a human shield. You know, he's been making Isaiah's life live in hell for the past 2-3 weeks there. Can't wait to see what that's going to actually turn into. I hope it's going to be a match one-on-one between those two and not, Matt Hardy versus Ethan, which kind of feels like where we're heading, but I want to see Isaiah get it.
I want to fix this real quick for the YouTube.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're good. You're good.
I seem a little low.
So Stokely interrupts a little bit here. He kind of tripped up Jungle Boy when he was running the ropes there. Let's see. But he kind of pointed over at Matt Hardy and he was like, "Yo, I didn't do it." He's like, "Matt Hardy did it." And Matt Hardy was trying to be like, "No, I'm a neutral party here the whole night." But they kept making it look like Matt Hardy was the one, so Jungle Boy was getting a little upset with him. There was a spot in this where Ethan did an overhead press to Jungle Boy. Now, I know Jungle Boy is like my size, but that's still incredibly impressive for someone to do that overhead press, and he made it look effortless. He didn't look like he struggled to get him up or anything. He was just like, whoop, here he is, and he just held him up there, man. That's you don't get to see too many guys doing the overhead press,
Yeah, there was a really poetic moment during this match. I don't know if you picked up on it or not. So at one point, you had Ethan Page goes for Matt Hardy's Twist of Fate, and Jack Perry counters with
Yes.
Christian's Kill Switch.
I did see that. Yep.
And I thought that was a really awesome little poetic moment to get that with the next generation, with the younger guys. Overall, I really love this Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, Ethan Page story that they're telling. It's made Elevation. I know people. I don't want to throw around the word and say like must watch, but it's made Elevation kind of destination viewing in terms of the fact that there is not just enhancement matches and fun matches going on Elevation. There is story progression on Elevation.
I like to say meaningful. It's made Elevation meaningful.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. Definitely meaningful. It's made the show meaningful, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got hold on one sec here. There was a really good spot that I liked. I know I'm just going over spots here, but it's the day after. It's hard for me to do the traditional review of a match, but just going off my notes here. The one spot I really, really enjoyed was Jungle Boy was doing the 10 punches up on the turnbuckle thing, where the crowd gets to count to 10. That's one of my favorite spots in wrestling, has been since I was a little kid. And on about 7, 8, or 9, Stokely Hathaway jumped up on the ringside as well. And for punch number 10, Jungle Boy punched Stokely Hathaway. And I don't think I've ever seen them do that before, where like a second person took the last punch. I thought it was great. I loved it. That was one of my favorite spots of the night. It kind of looked like Matt Hardy and them were going to start getting involved in the match again, and we got Hook's music hitting. So Hook made his way down to the ring and stared down Matt Hardy. During this time, though, Ethan grabbed Matt Hardy's ponytail from behind and kind of used him as an anchor to try to do a roll up on Jungle Boy. That was a really creative spot there with Matt having his back turned and him actually being able to reach it and everything. That could have gone really bad, if they all weren't in the exact right places and everything. So kudos to those guys. That was a really good spot there.
Yeah, I thought it was a really awesome, unique finish. Again, to this storyline that's been a lot of fun on Elevation, and it's really cool to see them move that storyline to TV, actual TV. Again, it rewards your viewer. You want to reward people for continuing to be in your ecosystem. Let's say, let's put it that way. You want to reward the Elevation viewers. You want to reward the Dark viewers, and that's important to do, especially if you're going to have those shows. So yeah, I thought that this was a really well told story, really good match with a really good finish. For me, this is the highlight of the show because, as you said earlier, you thought it was underwhelming. I also actually found it quite an underwhelming episode of Rampage, but I really enjoyed this first match. I thought it was really fun, really good with a unique finish, and we're getting Jungle Hook again, which they had to do more than one match with Jungle Hook. That team is just money. Like we saw it in the ratings when they wrestled. They were the highest viewed segment of the night by a wide margin, if I recall correctly. yeah, we should not be done with Jungle Hook, not yet.
No, absolutely. So the finish was right after the Ethan Page grabbing Matt Hardy's ponytail for the leverage there. Jungle Boy did kick out. He did do a roll up himself, and he got the 1-2-3 on Ethan Page. So Jungle Boy wins. But Ethan Page challenges Jungle Hook to one more match on Dynamite. I don't like the whole one more match thing because it always makes it feel weird if they have another one afterwards. You know what I'm saying? But we are going to get one more match of Jungle Boy and Hook, the Jungle Hook. So I can't wait for Dynamite to see that one. That's actually going to be really good. It's going to be Ethan and Matt Hardy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be fantastic. How could
I
it
hear
not?
what you're saying with the one more match thing, but for me, that's only like in sense of like retirement.
I know.
If Jungle Hook are like, hey, we're not planning on being a tag team, we just have each other's backs. And they're like, hey, you guys want to go another round? I don't think there's anything with that.
Yeah.
We
Let's
got
go up to
some-
chat here. What up, KP? Feel like the women's division in AEW is getting better at least. Oh, absolutely. The Jade match is my highlight of the night, actually. Layla Gray impressed the shit out of me, but we'll get to that, in a little bit. Dragon Den. Oh, I love that name. Dragon Den, yes. With Jade, I'd argue the problem is the audience only really cares about Jade in these matches and the opponents aren't known by them. Yeah, that was definitely a thing. I had no idea who these sisters were tonight, but we'll talk about that when we get to that match.
Yeah, we're getting there.
So next up after this, we had Tony Schiavone with Ortiz, doing a promo about Eddie Kingston. And this is another time where I'm going to complain about the wrestler's attire in the ring. Ortiz looked like they went outside and pulled a guy off the sidewalk, right? He's wearing like a regular baseball hat. He's wearing like a regular, I don't even know if it was a hoodie. I can't remember, but I just couldn't get over the fact that they both just looked like two dudes that they found outside and were like, hey guys, come in here real quick.
That's their gimmicks.
I know, but
What do you
wear like at least a wrestling shirt or something underneath it. You know what I mean? Like it just didn't.
Oh man, that's not their character, especially Eddie. Eddie is the guy he's gonna show up in Tim's and a hoodie. Like that's.
No, I want Eddie showing back up in the basketball jersey with the Eddie Kingston basketball jersey and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I get it. I get it.
But I think that at the end of the day, attire it goes with the character. So like. I don't know, man. Like I don't have an issue with it so much. Like,
for me, I think it's more because like we just brought this new look to the show, and it's trying to to elevate everything, make everything look better, and all that. And then I don't want to say the janitor came out, but yeah,
I understand the critique, but for me, again, it goes in line with character. It's like Well, it's like, do you have an issue with Bryan Danielson when he shows up in a plain white T-shirt?
No, I get it. Yeah, and that is his thing.
But that's Danielson. Like Danielson is a very plain living guy. He's just living off the earth and loving life. And again, like you want to see genuineness. Like that's what I want to see. Like I already know wrestlers have their merch. You know what I mean? And like it's okay for wrestlers to wear their merch. But like that doesn't have their merch doesn't have to define them, in my opinion. So
no, I agree.
I hear what you're saying, but it's like, okay, well, when Hook came out tonight, he was in a black hoodie. Do you have a problem with Hook wearing his black hoodie? Or not tonight, last night. I'm sorry, jeez. You know what I'm saying, though.
No, but we've been like conditioned to. I don't know. You are right. I'm giving some double standards here. You are right.
That's all I'm saying. Is just be mindful of that. Is that like. What you want to look at is not so much.
Since T-shirts are naturally sourced hemp, yeah. See,
they are exactly. That's what I'm saying. They are. And what's up, Jordan? Jordan missed Rampage. We're gonna get you caught up, Jordan. But again, it's just like
yes. See, Dragon got it perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, he looks like an extra in a Law and Order episode or something. You know what I mean? I was just kind of like,
Right, but the point is, like, Law and Order is because I don't watch TV. Like the show generally takes place in New York, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, put him in a Supreme jacket or something. Like, put him in something nice. It just looked like he went shopping at Walmart. That's my only.
The character is he's a tough guy that's lived and died and seen his friends die on the streets of New York. It's like
I know.
It would be like if Powerhouse Hobbs came out, right, and he was just wearing a full blown suit. I'd be like, what? No, it wouldn't work.
Yeah. You make sense. It's just
I'm just saying, like, don't judge it off of what they actually like are dressed in. Judge it off of what their gimmick is. Ortiz and
Yeah.
Eddie Kingston, their gimmicks are literally guys who have fought and bled and lived on the streets of New York. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's their gimmick. So it's like Jericho. Jericho is a rock star, man. He comes out in the rock star jacket. He doesn't do that for any reason. He's a sports entertaining
Yeah.
rock star. Like, so that's what he wears.
Yeah, I
Garcia, Dan
got you. I
Garcia
got
wore
you.
leather pants tonight. Again, I'm doing it again.
And
Last
shit,
night,
to be
he
fair,
wore them.
go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just say, to be fair, backstage might be freezing like in my house. So, you know what I mean? Like, you never
I know.
know.
He wore leather pants for the first time because that was part of the gimmick. He's even on Twitter like, "Oh, okay, well that was interesting wearing the leather pants." Like that was like that's the gimmick. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Jake
Yeah.
Hager, his gimmick is that he's a big musclehead, but he's a fighter. What does he wear? What's his gear? MMA gear. I'm just saying. I
No,
rest
I
my
get
case.
you. I got you.
Go off the
So
gimmick.
Ortiz basically says Eddie's lost it. He's lost his mind, and he calls him out for trying to hit the lady last week. But that's not what was happening. Remember, Eddie was standing there and he turned around with the chair. Julia Blackheart was just standing there and screamed and fell down and made it look like he did that, right? So when this was going on in ring, Eddie comes down with a chair and they start confronting each other about the incident. It would have been so easy for Eddie to have been like, "Yo, roll the tape." You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they don't have footage of last week or of what happened, That's my only critique of this. It was still great, Eddie getting all fed up with Ortiz and all this. They're having the House of Black is definitely causing a rift in the friendship, and Eddie winds up cracking Ortiz in the ribs with the chair and then hitting him with a good one across the back. Eddie bails out of the ring and takes off, man. I actually was not expecting that, to be honest with you. I thought we were going to get some sort of Ortiz, taking out Eddie in this here, but man, didn't see that coming.
I felt extremely mixed about this segment. Like on the positive side, I thought that this was some of Ortiz's best work on the mic. I thought that was really good.
Yep.
I thought that it's cool to see the House of Black successfully playing mind games again. You want to see the House of Black be what they need to be in terms of a booking standpoint, and they're finally on track with that, so that's good. I don't know if this counts as a heel turn for Eddie or not. But kind of like what you said, I was just sitting there like, why is Eddie not explain? And I guess that's just wrestling. That's how it works, and that's just storytelling in general. It's like, well, if you do that, then you don't have a story to tell. But I was just kind of annoyed at how we got there. I was like, okay, so like these guys are like arguing and bickering because Eddie was gonna hit her with a chair, which I understand Ortiz's issue, but then the fact that Eddie would attack Ortiz, it felt really unwarranted. And
Yeah.
I get he was kind of like he was kind of pushing him, like, a little bit, not physically, but he's like, Homicide wouldn't want this, our mentor wouldn't want this, yada yada. But it was just, I'm watching this segment, I'm like, why would Eddie attack Ortiz there? Like, I just felt like I feel like we skipped a jump, if you know what I mean. Like, we missed a step where it's like, okay, like there was some tension because the House of Black is playing mind games, and then we have last week where Ortiz doesn't vibe with what Eddie's doing, and then the next week Eddie's attacking Ortiz with a chair, and it's just, I just don't feel like how we got here made the most sense. And then I also wondered, is that a heel turn? Like, those are my two big negative takeaways. Like, did we skip a jump here? And is Eddie a heel? Because it wasn't a very good heel turn.
No, yeah, it just more seemed like a crazy dude, like just beating up his friend and everybody being like, "What the heck, man?" You know what I mean? What we could do though is if he somehow joins House of Black, then he would get booed. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not booing Eddie if he joins House of Black and beats him down. I doubt they're cheering him.
Seeing that, well, that's the problem also with AEW that they need to be careful with is,
I said booing, I meant cheering.
yeah. AEW fans are very smart, educated wrestling fans. They're going to cheer who they want. They're going to boo who they want.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can get away with a heel that gets cheered and a face that gets booed. But generally speaking, they need to be careful with that. Eddie Kingston's a very loved guy. I don't think that they did enough again to warrant him becoming a heel here. And I don't even know if this is a heel turn or not. It's probably not. But like just watching it, I was like, well, people aren't going to boo him after that. So if it's a heel turn, it's not a very good heel turn. and
Nah.
you don't want to cheer him for that either because Ortiz isn't wrong. So again, it's a very weird place, and clearly the story is not done. But the way it ended to last night, almost did it again. Last night was very meh. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Well, we'll move on here. Like I said, Eddie did Eddie did take out Ortiz with the chair shot to the ribs and then one to the back, and then he bails out of the ring, and that was that. So, we'll see where this leads to, but I'm hoping it leads to somebody joining the House of Black. I prefer Ortiz actually, but we'll see.
In the House of Black, I would keep it as the 3. Well, the 4. I wouldn't add to it.
I know, but it's kind of like the House of Black's doing here. Maybe they make it their gimmick to go break up friends or something, but I'm just kind of going with they're the ones causing this.
I wonder if Santana is going to come back.
That would be good. Yeah.
That's my really only reasonable thought process here is the House of Black going to continue to beat these guys down, the two of them, and they're going to keep bickering to a point where something needs to kind of unite them, and Santana's that guy. I think that could work if Santana made up with Ortiz and he wants to come back to AEW and they make a trio or a tag team, whatever.
Bring back LAX. Give me Diamante back with them, man. That's been there right in front of their faces for so long, Diamante with them, but I don't know why they don't do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with that. There's definitely room to do that. But right now, in terms of what I can think of, what makes sense to me in terms of the story they're telling, that feels like the end point for me.
Yeah,
personally.
That's a great point, though. I would actually like to see Santana come back. Whatever problems he had going on before the injury, hope he's doing good after the injury and put all that stuff aside. So.
Den in the chat says, who knows? They can come up with some more stuff, build on it week after week as a constant Rampage storyline. Absolutely, yeah, no, it's
a good idea.
It's not done, so it's hard to look at it, now. But we're going to because that's what we're reviewing the show. But yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes. Right now, it left on a very underwhelming cliffhanger, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, Jordan, I love Diamante, man. I'm surprised that she's kind of stayed down there on Dark and Elevation like she has. She's she might be a little small, but I think she's on par with some of these ladies on the main roster right now. It'd be nice to see her move up with those guys.
Yeah.
All right, next up. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to go to the chat real quick. KP in the chat says, would you guys think it would be a good idea for AEW to make Dynamite and Rampage separate, do a brand split, or just keep it the same? So, I would say I would have Rampage go 2 hours. I wouldn't do a full-blown brand split, but what I would do is kind of have it be a touring schedule, more or less. What I mean by that is, so a big pro for the wrestlers usually in AEW is that the schedule is a lot more manageable than than the competition. They're not working a bunch of nights, especially except for when they do live rampages or they do a pay-per-view. The wrestlers are usually traveling and then working and then going home and then they're done and they can do whatever, work wherever or whatever they're doing. I would kind of split it up where it's all right, well, so we're going to do loops where all right, these guys and girls are going to work Wednesdays for the next few months while we do storylines. And then when we want to, we'll just move things around. You know what I mean? And just kind of do it that way, but also keep it open. Brand splits, I always enjoyed when Raw and SmackDown had separate brands. I especially the early days, the 2002 era of the brand.
Before they started firing everybody and had enough people for it, yeah, I loved it.
Sure, but even the thought of having the champions travel from show to show, I thought was really nice. Stuff like that. It was done well, but it's hard to maintain it. So, I think Tony Khan, I wouldn't be opposed to him trying it, but yeah, I think
one of their best moments comes from the Raw versus SmackDown thing. Remember when Batista was deciding on who to face at WrestleMania, and he had Triple H or Banana Man in the ring, and he just beat his ass? It was great.
You mentioned that segment so much.
No, normally I mention the thumbs down segment with Randy Orton up on his shoulders. This is another one that's very close to that one. Yeah.
It is. They are different segments. You're right. No, I mean, yeah, there are really good stories that you can tell if you do it right, and I think Tony could tell those stories and do it right. But
Yeah.
I would just say, either way is great, but get Rampage to 2 hours and kind of set up a schedule so that way people can still work as much as they are.
Now, I'm okay with a split where, like, in our minds, we do realize that there's a split roster, but then guys can cross over whenever. Like, I think that's kind of the way it's been, but not quite, 100%. So, all right. Next up, we had a Darby video package saying that he is not done with the House of Black, and he challenges Buddy Matthews to, he said, not necessarily the open challenge because he's making the challenge this time, but bruh. Buddy Matthews versus Darby Allin. Yes, please. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this match. I think it's going to be a really good match. We haven't seen nearly enough Buddy Matthews since he joined AEW, so let's definitely get this match going. I'm really excited for it.
So actually, Jordan, I got to touch on that because Evolution is my most hated faction of all time. I hated those dudes so bad when I was a kid, but when Batista turned on them, I became like a massive Batista fan. Like that was my dude because he turned on them. All right, yep, can't wait for that Darby Allin versus Buddy Matthews. And just now that we're mentioning Buddy Matthews, just real quick, when are we gonna get Buddy Matthews versus Kenny Omega, man? I really, really need that match sometime in our future.
Yeah, it's an interesting match that they've generally avoided, but I mean, they seem to be setting up for at some point House of Black versus the Elite. So I would keep an eye on the horizon for that.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. Even if it's in the triple, I just can't wait to see those two in the ring at the same time. And people have been talking about that for years, All right, next up, we had Willie Mack versus Brian Cage, match number 2. Didn't they face each other last week on Elevation or Dark?
They did face each other on Monday. Oh no,
man, it was so good on Monday, and I think this match was just as good, but having them so close together, I think is what kind of was meh for this one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jericho was he was pretty good in this. He kind of saved it for me. He had a lot of funny stuff going on commentary. Like, remember when Jericho asked, what is Prince Nana a prince of? He's like, do we even know he's a real prince? And Excalibur was like, yeah, he's a prince of Ghana. And he was like, have you seen the papers? Have you checked this out? And he's like, well, no, I don't think anyone has, actually.
Well, again, and I wrote this in my notes too, because this is what I've told you what I really love about the Prince Nana character, where it's like, he says he's a prince, and everyone's like, oh yeah, he's a prince from Ghana. And Jericho does raise the question. He's like, has anyone seen any type of documentation to prove that he's a real prince? And Excalibur's like, no one's ever seen them, but he says he's a prince. So it's like, all right, cool. I love Prince Nana. The Prince Nana is the GOAT agenda is in full effect here on the Broken Tables podcast. I love Prince Nana is so good. He's such a great manager.
Yeah, and Jericho on commentary says Willie Mack's a really nice guy, loaned him $20 backstage. And the first thing that I thought was, Jericho, why on earth would anyone need to loan you $20? I was like, hold on, Jericho really borrowing $20 from somebody? I was like, come on, either he lost his wallet or like something bad happened here.
Yeah. Dragon Den said that Willie was great, but he was wondering, did the same crowd see the same two people wrestle twice? So no. So it was last week was the Elevation taping, and then Rampage's taping was on Wednesday. So it wasn't the same. But to Jeff's credit, I agree with you, Jeff, that having the two matches back to back as close as they were, I understand why Tony did it, because he really wanted to see he wanted to get Willie Mack on TV.
Yeah.
Give him that chance, give him the opportunity. I think that's great. And the placement of it does make sense, but kind of what you said, it just doing the same match in the same week, it was just like, okay. I was kind of like, let's keep this moving. Let's just keep it moving.
Yeah. And I think it was, they were over on the West Coast still, right?
Yeah, they were in Fresno.
Yeah, so I'm thinking they're utilizing the talent that they've brought over there. You know what I mean?
Sure,
so
yeah.
I do understand it that, you got the guys over there who are there. So it's fine. It was just that was the only reasoning why I wasn't super into the match. Not to take away from it at all. It was still a great match. Um, I love Willie Mack. If you guys didn't see the one on Dark, go check out the YouTube channel for AEW and watch that first match between Willie Mack and Brian Cage. It was absolutely badass. The only reason I don't say go watch this one is because I don't know where you would watch it if you didn't record it. You know what I mean? So, but we get a big F5 by Brian Cage. Only gets a 2 count on this one, but he immediately just flips him over and hits the drill claw for the 1, 2, 3. I wrote down Willie looked great for a second time against Brian Cage. And those two had a bunch of matches over in Impact as well. So I think that was a great move to use Brian Cage and Willie Mack for these 2 matches here.
I mean, I agree. Dragon Den in the chat says Prince Nana, that MJF segment, the facials. I believe him so much. So we talked about that on Wednesday, and it's just, yeah, man, this guy is a true like OG wrestling manager, and there's not a lot of them left in the industry. Not just any one place, but wrestling managers are a very hot commodity. They're hard to come by, and Prince Nana is just excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next up, we had Jade Cargill and Layla Gray versus the Vanity Sisters. At first, I thought they might have been twins, but at no point in time did they mention these two being twins. So they kept saying Vanity Sisters. So I'm just going to assume they're not twins, but they definitely looked very, very similar. But to my surprise in this match, Layla Gray. Dude, we've been talking about the AEW women's division just getting better and better and better. And some of these girls, you've been able to see their growth since the beginning of their time in AEW compared to now. But I was shocked at how the growth in Layla Gray. The last time I saw her in the ring, I was like, oh God, get her out of this ring ASAP. But my God, dude, I don't know what it was, but something must have clicked with her in training. I don't know if it's still Danielson back there or what's going on. Madison Rayne, we're always giving her a lot of credit. But Layla Gray put like most of the work into, her and Jade's side of this match. And I thought it was great.
So I enjoyed I appreciated and enjoyed the story that they told in this match. I did not like this match though. I thought it went on way too long. It went on so long. It went on forever, it felt like. The match moved at like a real slow pace for me, just an absolute snail's pace. It's not that Layla looked bad at all, because I don't think she looked bad in any way. It was just like I'm sorry, I got done work last night. The reason we didn't go live last night is because I worked last night. I got done work, I'm sitting there with some dinner and I'm watching this show, and I get to this match and I'm just like, man, like I'm tired. Like, what are we doing here? Let's move it along. Let's speed it up a little bit. They could have told the exact same story in a quarter of the time.
So I think this is a time where, you know how we like to say Tony Khan listens to the fans?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of those times where he was like, okay, people say the women's matches don't get very much time. I'm going to give them some time. And it was the wrong match to give some time.
I would argue that's because that's not a critique of AEW. That's a critique of WWE. AEW does give the women's matches go around. They go a good amount of time. So
they do.
I would say that that's not a complaint that's necessarily aimed at AEW.
No, I see what you're saying, but like what I'm saying is you are correct that I do think this match went like maybe 2 minutes too long, maybe 2 or 3. You could have shoved another promo in here from someone.
I don't know, Jeff. Can you look up how long this match was? Because I felt like this went on for like 10 minutes.
I'm not sure how I would look that up. I don't usually do that.
I think
is there a website for it?
I think Cage Side Seats does.
Cage Side Seats?
I think so. I'm going to look it up. Let me see.
Yeah, go for it.
But yeah, I thought this went on way too long. But another thought that I had was, so Jade's 49-0, right? So like, It seems like it's going to be Red Velvet.
I mean, that's going to be her 50th win, yeah.
Right. Well, my thing is, do you think Jade gets to 50?
Oh, absolutely. There's nobody in AEW right now that should take that away from her.
I think that I agree, but I'm concerned that they're going to do the storyline where Jade does not make it to 50. and I don't think Red Velvet. Not that she doesn't deserve it. I just don't think the buildup is there
No.
to do it. I don't know. It was just a concern I had watching the show.
Yeah, I had I had that concern too, but I hope not. What up, Darth? What I'm hoping happens here is somebody asked Jade about the storyline with Bow Wow, right, on a podcast.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, AEW put it on ice, essentially. She was like, they just kind of went a different direction. No. I think we've had to put a pause because a certain somebody had to wait a little bit longer before they show up, speaking of Mercedes, obviously.
I mean, I've already told you I'm not talking back up into that until I see
Yeah.
it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. But we'll see what goes on with that. I think 50 is going to be Jade's. She's going to get that 50 against Red Velvet. I think it's going to be a great match, and they're going to make us a couple of times think that Red's going to get that 1, 2, 3. But I think Jade's going to pull it off. We'll have a nice big celebration, and we'll see what happens at that celebration. I'm hoping somebody interrupts it. I know you don't want to talk about it, but some people remember we were talking about the women's blood and guts match that we're hoping comes about with the WWE gals versus the AEW originals.
Totally think that's happening.
Yeah, so a lot of people are speculating that fifth member could be Mercedes of the WWE girls team, man, and it just makes a lot of sense when you see it like broken down and people, I was just like, my God, if that happens.
I that's what I've been saying. It may make way too much sense, but again, I can't sit here week in and week out when 2 weeks ago happened. It's like I'm not.
I agree. I agree.
To speculate that until they can actually.
But the more and more I think about that 2 weeks ago is I really think it was supposed to be Thunder Rosa, and I think everybody got so excited about Mercedes that it ruined it, and they canceled it.
I completely disagree.
Oh, I know. We may never know, but that's kind of where I'm at.
If there are ways of doing it differently, if they had Thunder Rosa planned and they wanted to go a different route, there was literally like 10 different things you could have done to lead up to that match that would have been better. But they didn't do any of those things.
Did you find the link to that match yet?
No, because I thought Cage Side Seats keeps a track of that, but I don't see it on here. Maybe I'm thinking of somewhere else.
So Dragon's Den says, who are the 5 AEW girls? So right now we would have Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Hikaru Shida. The other two, we could go a couple of different directions. Some people are thinking maybe a returning Statlander could join. We got a bunch of other girls that could possibly be there. But right now we have about 3. Could be Britt, Jamie Hayter, and
I think it's going to be Willow and Statlander.
Yeah, there you go. You can have Willow and Statlander. That's a great choice. Some people would say Willow's not an AEW original, but she got famous in AEW. Like nobody knew who Willow was before she came here. You know what I mean? So she's like definitely a product of AEW, if that makes sense.
Well, so keep in mind they've been very particular about the phrasing of like what they're saying, because they haven't said AEW originals. They're saying the AEW homegrown talent.
Homegrown, yes, you're right. I keep saying originals. Yeah.
And the fact that they're not saying originals makes me think that we're going to get Willow Nightingale, which she absolutely should be in. Willow Nightingale is phenomenal, and she should absolutely be in a main story of, like, not just the women's division. I mean, I'm expecting this women's blood and guts storyline to be one of the main storylines in the company, period. I could see this going. What I would do, I would let them go the men's route, where I would let them do something like an Anarchy in the Arena type match at Double or Nothing, and then at the end of the summer you do Blood and Guts. That's what I would do. I would have it just be something that builds and builds. Have like have a few singles matches at Revolution, or no, maybe not even that. Maybe just have like a big tag, maybe a 6 tag, or a trios, or an 8-woman tag. And then you just lead up to Double or Nothing. You do a huge crazy match. That be your big huge crazy match. Like let the girls do it this year. And again, fuck Ric Flair, fuck the Carnies. Women can do it too.
Dude, get out of here with that. What up, Alex? All right. So I thought the ending to this match here with Jade was fantastic. So Layla Gray hits a finisher. She's about to get the 1, 2, 3. And Jade's like, hey. She's like, get over here. And Layla's like, all right, all right, all right. And she kind of laughed about it. You know what I mean? So like I really enjoyed the way that Layla was like, she was part of the team of like, let's make Jade look good. You know what I'm saying? So Layla gets up, tags Jade in. Jade hits the Jaded on one of the Vanity Sisters, and she picks up the 1, 2, 3. But I really enjoyed how Layla was kind of like, okay, okay. And she was happy to give the win to Jade because she knew that she just beat that girl's ass. You know what I mean? She's like, I already had the win. She's like, I don't need the actual pin. I thought it was perfect. I loved it. So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I got you. I got you.
again,
Next
I
up,
thought the story was good. Story was good. Ending
yeah,
was
the
nice.
story was great.
Just go 2 minutes with that. You don't got to go 10 or whatever it was.
Yeah, Dragon, I do agree with you on that one. That's a very good point. So if I was right with Mercedes being the fifth member of the WWE ex WWE gals, it would make sense for her to be on there as well, because the storyline could be, let's say Mercedes comes over and takes the belt from Jade. That would actually make for Jade wanting to join the team in that blood and guts match. You know what I mean? Like Jade's held that belt for close to 3 years now, right? At least 2.
Yeah, my only issue with that is if you get Willow on the team, which I think Willow should be on the team absolutely. Especially with the Ruby Soho storyline, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
At that point, are you bulking up with too many powerhouses on one side?
Yeah, I mean, Jade's a different kind of a powerhouse. I do see what you're saying.
Like I don't know. That would be a lot.
But
you
you got like Jade is almost, she would almost play the giant, and then Willow is kind of like, I guess, a muscly. Yeah, I don't know. I see what you're saying though. I think they're two different types of monsters though.
I don't think the styles are like, I don't know. I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. It could work. It could work.
Yeah. If they're all just beating each other up in random spots like most blood and guts matches, it should be fine. Oh, that would be amazing. Oh my God. All right, let's get to the main event for the night. Now, I kind of liked how they redid their structure on, it's time for the main event. So they weren't interviewing the two teams side by side. They kind of let each side cut like a video package promo. And then Mark Henry was there. It's time for the main event. So it was a little different, but we still got that, it's time for the main event thing. I enjoyed it, but I'm not sure if I missed the old having the two guys side by side kind of able to talk smack to each other thing. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel indifferent. I mean, I really enjoy the face-to-face like smack talks before.
Yeah.
I also think there's a lot of room to do some really funny stuff and also entertaining stuff with Mark Henry kind of getting involved, whether it be Orange Cassidy or, whoever it is. To not do that, it kind of came off a little bit more, let's say, less authentic. I mean, the video packages are good. You should do video packages leading up to matches. I would say maybe do the video package. I don't know. See, because you don't want to do both, but those face to faces are really good normally.
They are, yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see if they bring them back. I'm kind of like you said. I'm like a little indifferent. I'm not too sure at the moment, but we'll see. If I see a few more of these like this and I don't like it, we'll see. I'll make it known. But we got Daniel Garcia versus Action Andretti, and they introduced him from Philadelphia. I think I remember vaguely hearing this, but this was the first time it clicked. So hell yeah, Action Andretti from Philly. Let's go. Yep. This was a great match. You know what I mean? Even though this was a lackluster Rampage for me, only because this didn't feel like big time matches. A lot of the last couple Rampages have felt really like another episode or another hour worth of Dynamite. These kind of felt like a few different main events for Elevation or Dark. You know what I mean? But not to take anything away from the guys. This was a great match. Garcia in the leather pants. I really enjoyed how he kept on like tugging on the pants to kind of signify he's not used to wearing them, or if he was embracing them. I couldn't really tell, but it was that was pretty funny. Andretti, man, this guy gets another victory over another member of the Jericho Appreciation Society. So Andretti put on an awesome match here. He gets the finish with a really cool, he had him up in a fireman's carry, swings him around into a neck breaker, only gets the 2 count, but gets right up and hits the running shooting star press, just like he beat Jericho with. This time, I think it looked much better. It actually did look like a finisher this time. And he picks up the 1, 2, 3. So Action Andretti getting a little bit of a push here, man. Just like right away in AEW. It's kind of crazy. Usually guys don't get a push this soon, huh?
No, I mean, yeah, it was kind of impressive to see him. He's working his way his way through the members of JAS, and that's kind of crazy because he's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I guess you beat Jericho, everything else is still on the table, but yeah, he's working his way through them. I thought that was good. I don't know what it was. I found the match to be fine.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because the previous like 30 minutes of Rampage wasn't very good in my opinion, but that match didn't do enough to kind of bring me back, unfortunately. But I thought it was fine. It was good. I think Action Andretti is extremely talented, as is obviously Garcia. I think that these guys have a much better match in them in the future.
Yeah. And Dragon, I have no idea where Andretti was before AEW, to be honest. The first time I saw him was in that match against Jericho. I know they had him on it was a dark episode right before the Jericho match, right? Because you had mentioned that they did put him on at least once before the Jericho match.
He had worked a Dark Elevation taping back in August and had done a promo then too.
Okay.
So apparently Jericho had selected him as early back as the Dark taping, and that's why they did a promo with him,
nice.
kind of establish it a little bit.
Imagine
sitting on it.
Imagine being a rookie in the back, just cutting a promo on Dark, and having Chris Jericho, the arguable GOAT, being like, "Yo, I want to work with that guy. Write his name down." Like, that's got to give you some confidence, man.
So just a little backstory for Action Andretti, because I didn't know either. He is pretty green in the business. So he started training to wrestle by MCW Pro Wrestling, debuting for them in November of 2019. Over the following year, he primarily appeared with MCW in Maryland and Virginia. In June 2021, Andretti debuted with GCW, competing in a scramble match on its Zombie Walk pay-per-view. Over the rest of 2021, he appeared with MCW, GCW, and other promotions in the northeastern U.S., including the National Championship Wrestling, Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling, and the Susquehanna Wrestling Organization. So basically a bunch of very small promotions. We're from around here. I've never heard of Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling or the Susquehanna Wrestling Organization. Excuse me. In November 2021, he won the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup promoted by MCW. In January of last year, he began appearing regularly with CZW. He won the MCW Heavyweight Championship back in October, but then in December, he lost the title to Ken Dixon in a 4-way dance. So he wrapped up with MCW, dropping the world title, and then he started AEW this month in January.
Man, that's pretty young in the business for being as good as he is. That's wild. I wonder what his background is. Do we know, is he like a college wrestler? Was he a gymnastics guy or something? Because that's not normal to be that good in 3 years.
That's all we have.
Jordan's like, I say shitty indies, but I love them. I love them.
What did Jordan say?
He was just naming all of the places he was, and he said shitty indies, and I was like, oh, come on, Jordan. And he's like, for what it's worth, I love the shitty indies.
Yeah.
But this was an okay episode of Rampage. Like I said, I'm not sure if it was just the week that did it to me, but it definitely felt like a lackluster episode of Rampage. And, it could have been that, listen, Tony had to make a whole episode of Ring of Honor tribute on the fly. Maybe he just didn't have the resources for Rampage left over after he did all of that stuff, there's multiple things that could have happened here, but, maybe we gave some guys the weekend off because, obviously because of what happened again, that's just keeps coming back. But you know, I don't think it'll be a recurring thing. They definitely had 2 or 3 weeks of absolutely freaking fantastic episodes of Rampage and Dynamite. And speaking of Dynamite, what do we got going on this week? I know they announced a bunch more matches here on Rampage.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's see here. First up on Dynamite, we have Jungle Hook versus Ethan Page and Matt Hardy. Again, it's really cool that this storyline's made its way to TV after being on Elevation. You reward your viewers, and you get Jungle Hook. So that's awesome. Darby Allin will be defending his TNT Championship against Buddy Matthews. We have a three-way dance. Tony Storm versus Ruby Soho versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Ruby's totally joining Tony Storm and Saraya next week. Like,
Yeah.
this was the match. This was the match where I was like, I already knew, but I was like, oh yeah, here we go. A three-way dance. These two are going to team up against Britt Baker. Like, they're going to start beating down on Britt Baker. It's always been a match. Dragon Den saying, is there a booking committee or it's just Tony booking for show? It's just Tony. I mean, he takes he takes input and he listens to ideas and he talks about it and he's got guys he bounces stuff off of, but at the end of the day, Tony's the final say. KP says it's rumored Jeff Jarrett is helping Tony book the shows. I mean, he's probably definitely listening to Jeff Jarrett. There's definitely a pool of wisdom there. I think that at the end of the day, I think Tony sits down and I don't think he sits there and he books the shows himself. I think he sits down, he books the shows, talks to the people he trusts, then they they work through it, and then they do it. You know what I mean? But I think Tony is like the majority of it. But there's no I think he said in the past, like he talks to QT about stuff, he talks to people about stuff. So yeah, I would say that's probably the case.
Yeah, and Tony has said, he's like, there's a few people that I listen to in the back, but I ultimately have the final decision. You know, Jericho's in his ear. I'm sure Jeff Jarrett's in his ear. You know, there's a bunch of guys back there that they give him his ideas, and Tony ultimately makes the final decisions. Yeah.
Right. Also on Wednesday, we have the Acclaimed and the Guns having family therapy. I don't think that's going to go well. Brian Cage will be facing off against Bryan Danielson. Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara will face Ricky Starks and Action Andretti. And that is what we have announced for Dynamite. So what is that? 5 matches in a segment. So yeah, it's going to be a good show. We didn't get anything for Rampage for next week, but we will see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. You got any topics that you wanted to go over here tonight?
No, I think that we generally covered it. Really appreciate everyone hanging out with us here. KP and Dragon, make sure you guys subscribe. We loved having you guys around and having you guys part of the conversation. That's
Definitely
something that we take pride in. We think that we do a pretty good job at talking to everyone in the chat and keeping everybody involved in the conversation. So if you guys haven't yet, subscribe, hit the like button. We really appreciate it. But no, Jeff, I think that's pretty much it. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it. Jordan says AEW Ring of Honor Women's Champion Athena is defending the Ring of Honor title against TJPW's Miyu Yamashita for Prestige Wrestling tonight on IWTV. Watch if you can. Hell yeah. That's going to be a banger. Miyu Yamashita is badass, and Athena is probably one of my favorites in women's wrestling right now. So, hell yeah, if you could watch that on IWTV, get on it. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for me tonight. You want to go ahead and close us out, sir?
Absolutely. Well, this has been episode 111 of the Broken Tables podcast. As I said earlier, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. Thank you for hanging out with us live, or if you're catching us in the future, this is our YouTube exclusive show. Usually you can find our Dynamite show and the Game Room podcast on our other podcast services like Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Anchor. As I mentioned earlier, we have the Game Room podcast, which is our video game podcast, usually on Monday nights, but we're actually going to be doing tomorrow night. Jeff, I'll let you know the exact time, but it'll probably be around the same time, I'd imagine, based off if it works for your schedule as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, check us out. We're live on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Monday nights usually for the Game Room podcast. You can follow us down below in the description for our social medias. Follow us on Twitter. We hang out on Twitter a lot. Other than that, we'll catch everybody next time.
All right. Thank you guys very much for joining us here tonight. We hope to see you guys on Sunday for the game room and on Wednesday for Dynamite review. But until next time, top guys out.